sounds are being heard around the world. In Sweden, this sure sounds like a trumpet. In Michigan, another trumpet-like sound.
You hear that? What the heck is that? Luna! Do you hear that? You guys hear that? What is that? What is that? You feel the ground move?
Yeah?
What the heck is that?
I know what they are.
Any idea what that is?
They are animals that live on the ground and walk around.
Oh my gosh, did you hear that?
What is
My
it?
4-year-old thinks it's animals that live underground and walk around.
I think it's a devil banging his trident.
Oh my gosh, seriously. That is messed up. Don't listen to my kids. They couldn't possibly be. Anyone else know what this could be? What is this?
Venezuela's parliament on Sunday. Amid extraordinary scenes, lawmaker Luis Parra is sworn in as new parliamentary president.
Juan Guaido knew, as we all did, that he needed to be here. No one stopped him from coming in. He didn't have enough votes. That's why he decided to stay outside the parliamentary palace.
Guaido and his supporters could clearly not get in. The man who calls himself interim president even tried to climb the railings. Members of the National Guard stopped them entering the building.
The Constitution has to be respected today. Every member of Parliament must have the right to vote. We're going to stay here until we get inside.
He and his supporters outside were completely cut off from what was happening inside, but they were sure any vote without them would not be valid. There was no way the necessary number of people were in there, and they would have never had a majority.
Parliamentarians were held back by force. That prevented the sitting even being properly opened.
The position of parliamentary president is significant. A year ago, Guaido declared himself interim president of the country. He cited doubts over the re-election of President Nicolas Maduro. The Constitution says where there is a power vacuum, the parliamentary president should take over. Guaido's declared mission: to end Maduro's reign and hold new elections. But he's failed to get the military's backing, leaving the country with two supposed presidents and in chaos. Maduro recently said that the opposition-dominated parliament, which backs Guaido, had only damaged the country.
Parliament is being abused as a place where conspirators work to damage Venezuela financially, to create a coup and enable a foreign military invasion.
Now Guaido is also talking about a coup against parliamentary democracy.
Today, the rule of law was wrecked. The republic was killed.
The question of who is president is just the first of many that urgently needs an answer.
These are the official checkpoints. Hebei province, which surrounds Beijing. Everyone coming in is screened. But then there are the unofficial checkpoints. Village after village here is sealing itself off against the coronavirus. The handwritten signs say, "No outsiders allowed in." Other places have taken more structural measures, literally walling themselves in.
这个墙是你们村盖的？
对我们村盖的，就是不叫外人来回流动，流动人口减少了。
This is the screening checkpoint a street along. Residents aren't doing this on government orders, but off their own bat, trying to protect their home, whatever else is happening in the outside world.
Declared the coronavirus outbreak as a global public health emergency.
This new virus is now officially considered a global emergency. And speaking to reporters in Geneva, World Health Organization Director General noted the global fear of the spread of the virus between people outside of China. Take a listen.
I'm declaring a public health emergency of international concern over the global outbreak of novel coronavirus. The main reason for this declaration is not because of what is happening in China, but because of what is happening in other countries. Our greatest concern is the potential for the virus to spread to countries with weaker health systems and which are ill prepared to deal with it.
You know, this declaration, officially called a public health emergency of international concern, basically is a notice to all of the United Nations member states that the world's top health advisor body is rating this situation as serious. Now, countries can now decide whether to close their borders, cancel things like flights, screen people arriving at airports, or take any other measure. And this is all so significant, given that another 1,737 new cases were recorded just in the past 24 hours, bringing a death toll to 170, which is obviously changing instantly.
A new bombshell report reveals that Americans exposed to toxic chemicals in their drinking water has been dramatically underestimated. So what exactly does that mean, and how bad is it?
Reveal it's nearly impossible to avoid drinking contaminated water from toxic fluorinated chemicals. A new report reveals tap water in the U.S. is contaminated at a much higher rate than previously thought. A new report claims research from the Environmental Protection Agency and the Environmental Working Group has been dramatically underestimated. David Andrews, a senior scientist at the Environmental Working Group himself, says despite all this information, nationwide standards still have not been made. According to the report, perfluoroalkyl substances known as PFAS affects some 110 million Americans. Some of these chemicals are known to cause cancer, liver damage, low birth weight, among other problems. In the study, water samples were taken from 44 places in 31 states. Meridian, Mississippi was the only place with no traceable amounts of the chemicals. The highest levels of PFAS were in Miami, Philadelphia, New Orleans, northern New Jersey, and New York City suburbs. Those chemicals were also used in products like Scotchgard, Teflon, and firefighting foam. And speaking of contaminated water, it was announced today the nation's highest court is clearing the way, allowing Flint, Michigan residents to pursue a civil rights lawsuit against the city and government officials. The basis of the lawsuit alleges these officials knowingly allowed the city's water to be contaminated with lead. As you may recall, Flint switched its public water source from Lake Erie to the Flint River. During a financial crisis, it was thought as a means of cutting costs, but the river water caused lead to extract from the pipes. While the city switched back the next year, the bacteria in the water led to a Legionnaires outbreak, killing 12 people.
Rivers and pools are the colour of mud after dust blown from Mildura rained down on the city. Swimming in the bay is not advised, but authorities insist the city's drinking water is clean.
Even for the Yarra, this is a new level of brown. White boats floating in stark contrast to the murky water stretching right through the city, Docklands and to Williamstown. Rowers paddling through their morning routines to the surprise of those on the riverbank.
We were watching the rowers and they were in there and I thought, no, I wouldn't like that.
Kicked up by wind from paddocks around Mildura, the dust fell with widespread rain that hit windshields in Melbourne overnight, coating cars big and small in a brown film that had drivers reaching for a soapy brush.
I can't drive around like this.
As workers pumped water from a flooded Burnley train station, people were waking to find dried dirt staining windows and patios. Toilet water turned orange as the dirty rain infected home water tanks, dogs' drinking bowls and backyard pools.
I had to look twice, 3 times. I had to change areas around the house in case my eyes were playing tricks on me. I'm not going to swim in it for a long time yet.
The usually crystal blue waters of Tullamarines urban surf weren't any better off. Closed for the day so vacuums could suck up dust that had settled on the bottom of the Premier Wave Pool. Dean Tantaro's Bundura shop is one of many selling out of the products, helping people do the same at home.
So we're back to the old ways. Yes, we are manually vacuuming because this dust is marginally thicker than water.
Heavy rain submerged this pond boardwalk in Canley, with the SES called to help 521 people across Victoria in 24 hours, mostly for flooding and storm damage. All of that dust collected in our stormwater system is now being carried in canals like this one at Elwood to one spot, Port Phillip Bay. Today, the water quality at every beach was listed as poor and unsuitable for swimming.
From a bacterial perspective, 48 hours is good enough for the water quality to be good enough for swimming again. It's just dust.
Dust that Melbourne Water says has had zero impact on the quality of Victoria's drinking catchments.
By the time it settles, it disperses and mixes into the system, and again, the reservoir's that big that the impact would be immaterial.
Another wall of orange cloud was closing in on Mildura this afternoon as winds whipped up tornadoes of dirt on dry farmland across the border. Dust that the Bureau says could hit gauges in Melbourne once more if the wind turns south.
Very little rain's occurred up there, so we'll be looking for the next strong northerly wind day, which could again produce some dust through parts of Melbourne if it gets transported this far.